So this is part two of the 100 Lion Last Defense Academy all 100 engines ranked. So here we're just gonna cover the top 20 engines. As in the part one, I already did ranks 100 to rank 21. Hi guys, my name is Dan, and as I said before, this is a video of the top 20 engines of 100 Lion Last Defense Academy. It might feel a bit weird for me to do a part one with 80 engines ranked and a part two with all the other 20 engines ranked. I did that for a couple reasons. The first one being that for the top 20 engines, I think I have so much more to say about them. So I think they deserve their own video. And the second reason is because I think some viewers might not be interested in seeing all 100 engines ranked and might only be interested in the best ones. So I think for that reason, making a video with only the top ones, in that case 20, is it makes more sense. But if you are interested in rankings 100 to 21, I'll put the link here in the description. And I definitely suggest that you check that video first and then coming back here. And if this is the only video you're gonna watch, I think there's only one rule about my ranking of these engines that I think I should mention, which is that I'm not comparing gameplay between the engines here. I'm only analyzing the story. So there's just one last thing I want to talk about before I start these rankings. You might have noticed from the title of this video that I have something extra planned to talk about after I talk about the top 20 engines. All I ask is that you stick with me during this final part because I really think you're gonna like it. But I'll keep it a secret for a while. But I promise that I think you're gonna like it. So, in ranking these engines, I always try to be extremely objective, but it is important for me to remind you that this is still a personal list, so you might not agree with how I place these engines here. And of course, I don't think I need to mention this, but just in case, spoiler alert for 100 Line Last Defense Academy. So at rank 20, we have Killing Game Route Hope from Despair, which was Engine 87. Honestly, guys, the Killing Game Route, it feels on a whole different level compared to some of the others. Since we have many different routes, we got to know these characters, so it becomes clear here how different they could be when put through impossible situations. I mean, in most routes, they see their friends dying, but in this route, they are kind of responsible for the death of their friends. So you can see how much that changed them. And for that reason, this route is where I think those characters ended up feeling the most unique because you can't see them like this in any other route. My theory as to why is related to Kodaka. I mean, I know they said that Kodaka mostly led the first scenario, the first 100 days, and that Yoshikoshi was leading the multiple paths after the first 100 days, but it's pretty clear to me that Kodaka was heavily involved in the Killing Game route. After all, it's the, you could say it's the Danganronpa route. That isn't confirmed though, but I do believe that is what happened. So I don't know if you remember, but the first 100 days they call it Last Defense Academy 1, and after that when you start playing it, the multiple routes game, then it becomes Last Defense Academy 2. And because there was this difference in the direction leader between Last Defense Academy 1 and Last Defense Academy 2, you can definitely feel a difference in the writing of those characters. I think Hiruko telling Takumi to not believe that the people he messaged the first 100 days to be the same as the ones now in the beginning of the second scenario feels like this is the game's way of telling the player that these characters feel different because they are being written differently. And the killing gaming route has very first scenario vibes. I mean, it reminded me of the first 100 days, which made it stand out for me. And just to be clear, the comparison between this route and the first 100 days is definitely praised because I am a big fan of the first 100 days. But talking a bit more about some highlights of this engine of this route, I really love the friendship between Takumi and Yugamo. I think it was really well written, and I also love the romance with Tsubasa, as I mentioned before in my previous video. I think it was probably one of the best. But I am going to save more thoughts on the killing game route for its next engine in this ranking. But the thing I found incredible about these last two engines was that they both felt right in a sense. I mean, it felt right for these characters who had gone through so much to receive a happy ending, but it also felt right that a route that was represented by killing to ended up in a final massacre, which is what happened in the other engine, which you might have noticed if you watch my previous video, that it is in this one, somewhere in the top 20. So overall, while I love to see these characters receiving this happy conclusion, I still think I prefer the other final engine of this route better. And at number 19 we have the Eva route. Thank you. So we're here on the best Eva engine now, and I think this route proves that this game can do romance in spite of the horrendous romance route. The choice that leads to this path is one where we refuse to kill Eva for a second time, and this leads to the death of Shoma in a shocking scene. This is the only route where we are able to see Eva having a more compassionate side, as she stays brainwashed for most of the other routes. If you play Box of Calamity route before this one, it truly feels like Takumi is redeeming himself for the terrible choice of killing her the first time around. In his guilt over her brainwashed state, he slowly tries to get her to remember what she is, until they become close and start to have real feelings for each other. And this relationship did feel real. It was definitely top 4 of Takumi relationships in this game. And this ending, where it's shown that she had enough potential to fight on equal grounds with Vashnis, was just incredible. An excellent ending here. Number 18 goes to Last Defense Academy second scenario. Farewell, Last Defense Academy. Okay, so some people say that this is a bit low since they think this is easily the best or one of the best engines, but I don't agree with that. I think this engine, although excellent, had a few problems that made it fall short of the top 15 for me. First of all, it is very dependent on a whole bunch of specific decisions, which kinda bother me. I mean, think about it. First, you have to spare Ava, then you must kill Ava, then you have to choose to fight for humanity, then you have to choose to sacrifice everybody to save the Futurans. Uh, I know each of those decisions have their own context, but it feels just a bit all over the place in terms of decision. Also, the first time Takumi came back from the future, it was because in the first timeline, 6 out of 16 people died. I guess 7 out of 17 if you count Eva. So, a timeline where everybody dies but the Futurans are saved does not feel like a reward. Feels like he came back for nothing. I hate this idea that a second scenario where everybody except Nozomi died is treated as the canon ending. Engine 55 is the canon engine, my good people. You could argue that what Takumi wanted the most was to save Nozomi and the Futurans, but I don't agree with this idea that he would sacrifice everybody he cared about to achieve that. This being on rank 18 with all those negatives speaks to the quality of this route, of this engine. We had the Kyoshika sacrifice, the choice between Gaku and Kurara, the review of the SDU origins, the destruction of the satellite, which was a shocking scene, the fight against the bomb's defense system, the list goes on. This engine, this route, it really feels incredible. So while this engine ranked 18, I think that if I was ranking routes, this would place way higher. And at number 17, we have the Goodbye Ato, Praying for Your Happiness. Boy, this one was a curveball. Playing the entire game behind the perspective of one character and suddenly have the perspective change to a different character 100 or so hours in the game might not have worked in other games, but it did work here. As one of the few character-centric engines of this game, I think Goodbye Aito delivered. It allowed us to see through the lens of Aito, quite literally in fact, and seeing his troubled mind reflecting on his mistakes almost makes you want to forgive this character, even though you won't and you shouldn't. I mean, the guy did terrible things. But he is without a doubt one of the most important characters of this game, top 4 at least, and seeing him fight for people, for the Futurans one last time, it really felt great. I think the only thing I wish to see in this engine was what happened to the SGU. I think if they show the SGU failing without him, would really emphasize just how important his part in the final battle was. I think that would have added to this engine, but I get why they went about the way they did, as this engine was supposed to feel more personal, and they definitely succeeded at that. Excellent engine overall. I mean, I really like this engine. And at number 16, we have the Box of Calamity route, Hollow Victory. So you might think I'm a bit crazy for putting this one above the second scenario, as they both had similar bleak conclusions, but I think I like this one more because this one does not pretend to be the main engine. As the name implies, it is supposed to feel like a Hollow Victory, with them discovering the culprit is Nozomi, but a little too late, as the only 3 people that survive are the ones you see here in the picture: Takumi, Hiroko, and Tsubasa. The Nozomi-Gi plotline of the route worked really well, and although I do dislike the whole thing with Shoma's pet Gi in an animal, in a stuffed bear subplot, I do think it landed something to the mystery. In a sense, this has similar strengths to the mystery route, with the main difference being that because the crimes are Gi-based, the game doesn't give enough clues for you to pinpoint the murderer, and by the end it becomes fully reliant on a simple process of elimination with the 4 remaining STU members. Uh, if you made different choices, you could discover way early that Nozomi was possessed by the Gi. But for this engine here, the horror of seeing everybody murdered one by one while you are left clueless as to who is doing it, I think it works really well. I think the Box of Calamity takes both the strengths of the mystery and the slasher route in that sense. At least in this story leading to this engine. Once again, this was an excellent changing. And now it's time for the honorable mention I promised in the last video. So you see, my top 15 is what I referred to in the beginning of part 1 as the above and beyond tier. And I think the above and beyond tier needs to start with this honorable mention here. I of course am talking about Engine Zero, which was the first scenario before Takumi came back in time for the first time. So the reason why this is an honorable mention is because a lot of people, myself included, do not consider this an engine, as this is only the beginning for Takumi. Some people even call this the prologue. But I gotta say, I think that if I was ranking routes, I would consider this one though, because even though it doesn't give you actual choice and consequence or multiple engines, it is still a set of 100 days with character development, stories, and twists. I wanted to at least include it as an honorable mention because I think it deserves more credit. Playing Underline Last Defense Academy 2, as we call it, really make this route feels retroactively great. Because while I am a sucker for multiple engines as they offer a lot of freedom, this route shows the benefits of a more concise story. Some of the characters never really shine again like they did here, especially Shoma, Ima, and Kako. While I always preferred Yoshikoshi's work that presents small character groups and tries to highlight all of the characters in his stories, I love Kodaka's approach of focusing on just a handful but making them feel really incredible. So now I'm going to present number 15 and number 14 together. I'll explain why in just a bit. So at number 15 we have the mystery route visitors from day 100, and at number 14 we have SF route the curse cycle. So this is the first of 3 pairs of engines that I'm presenting as pairs because each kind of feels like half the puzzle, and puzzle is certainly the right word to describe this pair because I think they were kind of creative here. You see, the context is that Takumi knows he's going to die and that everybody is going to be killed by the bombs, so he makes one final call, which is to send everybody to a timeline where they are dead, but everybody who died is alive with one exception, that being Hiruko, who is alive in both of them. You see, in that timeline, they couldn't escape, but they at least stopped the bombs, so they would be able to survive. But instead of staying in the world that will have 2 Hirukos, the steady fundamentals Hiruko decided to go back to spend Takumi's final moments with him, even though she would be dying as well, which was a really bittersweet moment. If you play the end of the mystery route before this SF engine, the sense of mystery is really enhanced, giving it full circle thematical conclusions as you start the route with mysteries and end the route with one big mystery as well, which is how are these people alive. But the whole thing is explained in the SF route, which is constantly recontextualizing parts of this game. Overall, it was an incredible couple of engines. They were an incredible use of the multiple engines mechanic that are highlighted in the SF route constantly. Just just great stuff. And at number 13 we have the SF route, one massacre to another. So talk about so close in it so far. Which happens to be the title of a different engine. As you can see in the picture, everybody survived, but it feels like a hollow victory. This the title of another engine as well. I'll stop with this joke. The reason why everybody looks miserable except Siri, the little bastard, is because they sacrifice all the futures for their own survival. So this is almost the golden engine, and it ranks so high for me because I loved how they went about it. The death of all futurians meant the death of that timeline commune, which triggered Eva finally releasing her from the brainwashing, and it is highly suggested that when that happened, she decided to just kill everybody in the ship and in the satellite. I think it is implied that a fight broke out in the spaceship, which probably led to the death of everybody before even they even got to the satellite actually. So I really like how that turned out because Eva's brainwashing was always a point of contention for me. It is literally one of the only four faults which I find on the Golden Engine, which is one of my favorites. I originally wrote only one fault, but when I thought about it, the Golden Engine, by which I mean Engine 55, has three more faults. So this engine felt like payback for how this great character was poorly treated during 90% of this game. So number 12 and number 11 goes to the slasher route, It Was You, and the SF route, Form of Suicide. Honestly, I think whatever order you see this pair is going to blow you away, but I think it is definitely better for you to play It Was You first. Despite the title suggesting the serial killer isn't actually revealed here, I actually play A Form of Suicide first, completely unaware of why the heck the G Brain Takumi did all that. So the twist here is that G-Brain Takumi from the slasher route killed SF Takumi, which somehow made the slasher route Takumi take full control of Takumi's body. So he left the corpse of SF Takumi lying dead there, which made everyone think that the slasher route Takumi was the one that died, when in fact it was the Takumi from the SF route. And that made the G-Brain Takumi, the slasher route Takumi, fully embraced his serial killer persona for some reason. The whole thing was just mind blowing. I don't know if I explained it that well, but trust me, it was mind blowing. The way the game is structured around Takumi, it was really cool to suddenly be playing as Nozomi. And while the other engine with her, the Three of Us engine, only ranked 30, as it didn't add that much to the overall story, uh, and the massive force that is the slasher, the serial killer, uh, rather abruptly. I think this it was you engine. I think that he is. I think it is a whole different story. So in the it was you engine, Nozomi sacrificed herself to save Shoma and Kyoshika by taking the slasher down herself. And in her final moments, she discovers the slasher's true identity. While it is not revealed to us, the player, it seems to shock Nozomi to her core, enhancing our curiosity of who it might be if 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 we hadn't played the SF route yet. But I think that even if you did, it is still incredibly satisfying to see Takumi dying in this scuffle with the slasher and to discover how the game used its visual novel structure to trick you. So if you think about it, start playing as Nozomi in this route when you never saw through the POV of another character before, save for the Goodbye Ato route. Makes sense in this route here because in this route here I mean the one with the slasher route with Nozomi. And the reason why it makes sense is because in most routes you end the route either when you reach day 100, escape, or when Takumi dies. I guess the exception is the romance route here. And since none of those three conditions have been met since Takumi didn't actually die here, the game had a reason to keep going. It was a very clever way for the game to tell us that Takumi was actually still alive. So overall, this was also excellent puzzle pair engine here. We're on the top 10s now. So in the number 10 we have the Redstone route, how Darumi felt. I know it's weird for me to talk about a Darumi focus engine and not putting a picture of her here. I just realized this, I'm so sorry. But before I focus on the guild of this engine, I actually would like to mention some of the things I didn't like about the route. And be honest with you, the Redstone route as a whole didn't actually work for me. I say this knowing I am going to be hated, but I am going to explain my three reasons as to why. First, I think that out of all four engines, only this one is great. The others are mid at best and awful at worst. I want to be clear here that I'm not talking about the fact that they aren't happy engines. As you can see on my rankings, unhappy engine can be considered excellent. The other three engines are basically Redstone absorbed everybody, or Redstone killed everybody, or Redstone killed you. There's no interesting development whatsoever, with maybe the exception of the absorbing engine, but that still wasn't really that interesting. Which segues to my next problem, Redstone itself. So one of the strengths of this game is presenting a certain number of elements and using them in imaginative ways, like the parallel leap machine, the gi, the jumpsuit, the revival medic, the boxes, etc. But Redstone feel like it exists so separate from the lore of this game, like it exists solely for this body or horror route. And this feels like such a letdown because it feels like there was more that could be done with it. You could argue that the killing bees are also like that, but I see them as a type of mob enemy, and as a concept they have led to far superior story beats. And my
The huge point is that despite this route doing a lot to redeem Darumi's character and personality, I don't think it fully achieves that because Darumi is so incredibly annoying in most other routes that she's alive. So I just really don't like Darumi, man. You might be wondering why I placed this engine so high when I talked so much trash about this route. Well, it is because this engine emphasizes all of this route strengths. Takumi and Darumi's dynamic felt weirdly wholesome, and I'm glad the writers didn't feel the need to make it romantic, but I think if they did, it would probably have been the best romance story of this game. Darumi's softer and vulnerable side was a joy to see, and while I did understand they couldn't just do more non-crazy Darumi all the time, I still wish they gave us more of this. Takumi's determination at the end to take responsibility for Retina and to get rid of it was incredible, and his idea to use Shion's power for that goal was awesome. They were rewarded for all the sacrifices at the end with the resurrection of Moko, Yugamu, Kyoshika, and Kurara. So overall, excellent ending here. And at number 9, we have the Killing Game route, escaping our fate. Boy, this engine is sad AF. I am going to use this opportunity to talk about one of the best parts of the Killing Game route, Takumi and Tsubasa's relationship, which for me only is inferior to Takumi and Hiruko's relationship as far as romance rankings go. It definitely felt like it followed all steps of a romance. They became allies early on, then they became closer, then they kissed, and they did everything for the other one to survive, so they could survive together. Their relationship was so incredible that this ending scene it hurt, man. It happens when Takumi decides to escape with Tsubasa to get as far away as possible from the bees in the whole killing game, since Tsubasa ranked the lowest and would be killed otherwise. Eventually, they outrun the bees, and it feels like they are off the hook. So when nighttime comes, they decide to sleep on a scene that feels very similar to the one where they got close for the first time. And however, while they are sleeping, the bee reaches them and kills Tsubasa. In this, as you can see in this picture here, uh, that narration where Takumi says he will protect her forever because he wasn't seeing what was happening, it's chilling, man. And I think not showing the scene of him waking up and discovering her that way kind of just enhanced the whole engine. Masterpiece, just masterpiece. At number 8, we have the coming of age route, Bittersweet Youth. Let me start by saying this. The song Rumble by Pale Dusk and Masato from Coltrane is a banger, man. I mean, uh, this style of video doesn't give me a lot of room to talk about the music, but since this was one of the only two instances where the song is played, the other one being the first fight with Eito in the first 100 days, I thought it was only fitting for me to talk about the song here. I started listening to Masato from Coltrane in Jujutsu Kaisen episode. I think it was the end of the first season. This song just started playing during the fight, and I liked it almost immediately and went looking for it, and then discovered Coltrane, and then became a huge fan of Coltrane. It was just, it is just incredible band in my opinion, and it fills me with joy to see Coltrane in a Kodaka and Ushikoshi game. And like the first 100 days, this song here serves its purpose, which is to enhance that shonen anime feeling of fighting the last bad guy. In both cases, it was Aito, by the way. But unlike the first 100 days, which focused on the heavier part of the song to enhance the bleak atmosphere of the moment, in the coming of age route, it focused on the lightest part to enhance the whole power of friendship moment that they had here during this entire route actually. Since I'm on the song subject, let me just say real quick that I loved how much they use Claire de Lune. Some people didn't, but I did. And there was this song called Series Supervision that I also thought it was really great. Probably my favorite song in a Kodaka and Ushikoshi game. Reminds me a lot of Miss Monomi's practice lesson from Danganronpa 2, which was also great. I went on quite a tangent here, so let me get back on track. The coming of age route has a shared problem with the Redstone route, which is that out of all the 4 engines, this is the only one that doesn't suck, but it is the one that highlights all of its strengths. Nozomi and Kurara's friendship, Shion getting major screen time, although he was called Fireboy here. The romance between Takumi and Nozomi that seems more predominant here than it does in the main route. And this whole sense of camaraderie between the members, which you don't see so much in most of the other routes. I thought it was cheesy, but it kind of felt right in a really incredible way. And at number 7, we have the Slasher route. Goodbye, Kiss. Boy, oh boy, oh boy. We are almost at a level above the above and beyond here. Uh, this was what started the whole plot that led to the SF route, the Steady Fundamentals route. So I guess the plot of the SF route thus retroactively enhances this engine as one of the most important parts of this game. And honestly, spoiler alert for other Ushikoshi and Kodaka games here, but the whole "the real villain is you" trope is something that has been done by then in a few occasions, but this one was definitely the best. The entire premise of a serial killer on the loose fit the style of this game perfectly. Uh, there were some elements that felt like forced red herrings, like the whole Chibi invader hiding the academy to trick the machine that showed the number of people, or Yugamo pretending to be the slasher, the serial killer plotline, which was kinda random. I think if it wasn't for these small weak elements, this engine could be a bit higher. I mean, the talk between Hiroku and the key brain Takumi at the end, man, that was just incredible, powerful stuff. And for the game to allow you to control the slasher and decides who dies at the end and who escapes, just mind blowing. I really love just I really just love the imperfect piece of art that is this game, man. And at number 6 we have the Rebellion route, Seeds of Hope. Okay, so I think a lot of people are going to give me crap about how high this is, and maybe personal preference played a role here, but narratively speaking, this is the path that makes sense for the versions of the STU characters we see in the main route, at least for me. You could argue that Takumi wouldn't sacrifice Nozomi over Kamino, but I think it is believable that he would respect Nozomi's wishes and save Kamino instead of saving Nozomi. This is also one of the only engines that show a future way past day 100, which I think it was really cool. And I just love seeing Takumi like a boss here with Rebel Clothes leading the Futurans. Uh, I don't have that much more to say about it, but I don't have any negatives about this engine. Uh, Maybe Kamui was introduced a bit too late, and she's definitely written differently here than some of the other routes. But other than that, uh, this engine for me is perfection. And number five goes to the Vashner's route. Here with you. Man, oh man, oh man. When I talk about the EVA and the Veshness engines before, I kind of put them in a box of romancing the Invaders engines, but that is a bit of a disservice to this route, especially this engine, which feels like the correct one among the two. This route feels like one of the most unique, as it is the only one that focuses on the villains. Uh, I guess villains wouldn't even be the best term here. So to show the dispute inside their ranks and how Adamak would go so far as to try to stage a coup d'etat with Dalsha, that that was really cool. A lot of cool moments in understanding the Paragons and their dynamics with Ashness, and seeing the SDU in that state of defeat, choosing Tsubasa to set off the bomb and see her losing courage. Uh, it was really it was really unexpected. I think Tsubasa was really great in this engine. It felt like a small redemption cycle for her, seeing her lose courage to explode the bomb, and at the end going so far as to stab Takumi to not allow him to save Vashnis. Even if she lost courage in the end because she saw how much they meant for each other, I still think it was really there was a lot of character development for her during this route, during this engine. And you might not buy this love after world domination plotline they had here, but I completely ate it up. I thought it was incredible. This last scene of them holding hands in their final moment, that was completely believable and very endearing. And number four goes to the slasher route. History repeating. This engine, man, I don't even know where to begin. In other Yoshikoshi games, it's very common to discover plot points of one scenario in another scenario. I won't spoil how these work in those other games, but in 100 Line Last Defense Academy, Takumi only recalls traveling back once, making the connections here feel very special. This engine, narratively speaking, feels like one of the most important ones because it propels the events of the killing game route, the slasher route, the steady fundamentals route, the serial killer part. Honestly, when I saw that there was going to be a zombie focused storyline, I was like, does the world needs more zombie storylines? The hallway running gameplay was so simplistic, and yet this whole zombie thing worked. Uh, but this last scene here, man, that was just something else. Subverting expectations. You clearly thought Takumi would be killed by the zombies, so seeing them picking him in such an organized manner, unbefitting on how they acted so far, just so the Gi could possess Takumi. The horror, the suspense, it was it was amazing, amazing. And at number 3 we have the multiple idols route endurance match. No other engine rented a space in my head for weeks like this one did. Honestly, this one came really close to the number 1 spot. First of all, I said this about other engines as well, that this game presents to us the player with simple elements but uses them in creative ways. So in this one, they use the element of the revival magic to make one of the most batshit crazy engines I have ever seen in a Ushikoshi game. To beat Aito's mind, Takumi decides to kill himself more than 100 times in different and gruesome ways so that Aito's influence can die. However, by doing that, he's also risking that Aito takes over his body completely. Some people treat this engine like a gag because for them it makes no sense for the SDU to cheer Takumi's attitude, but I actually had a whole different interpretation of the scene, which is this one here in the picture. I don't think they were actually cheering for him to jump. I think Aito was making Takumi hear that so that he could jump and Aito could take over, which he did. That scene of him smiling because he took fully control of Takumi's body, it was spine chilling. And man, Takumi, he could pull crazy shit like this sometimes. In the coming of age route, he let Shiruku slice him in half to activate the bomb that would kill Vashnes. But this man, this was just he killed himself dozens of times just to try to make Aito's influence disappear. It was just, this dude is a batshit crazy bastard. I love this engine. And now for number 2 and number 1, I'm gonna present them both together. At second place is the steady fundamental route, all 17 of us, which is considered the golden engine, the true engine. And at first place, I'm putting the killing game route, so close and yet so far. Once again, where do I start here? As I said before, I played the Zero Escape series and then I played the Danganronpa series. And while I really love the story of Danganronpa, I always was very disappointed that it didn't have multiple routes based on choices, which is a feature of many visual novels and even plays a narrative role in the Zero Escape series. So for that reason, I always loved the Zero Escape series more. Uh, so when I finished the common route that was directed mostly by Kodaka, and then the game became 100 Line Last Defense Academy 2, a multiple route choice-based game directed by Ushikoshi. It felt like I played an incredible Kodaka game that evolved into an incredible Ushikoshi game in 100 Line Last Defense Academy 2. That being said, the multiple routes type of game made me appreciate the type of stories that Kodaka tells in his games way more. After all, the common route and the killing game route feel way more concise than the others, with consistent writing from beginning to end. And if the killing game route screams Kodaka because it deals with, well, a killing game, no route screams Ushikoshi like the SF route that deals with timelines and multiple story locks. So it feels almost poetic that in the route where everyone survived, everyone played nice, the enemy didn't stand a freaking chance, and even Idol became a good guy. The group, to survive in the end, had to go to the timeline where everything went to shit, where everybody jumped each other's throats, where the enemies were extremely united against you, that they attacked a week earlier than every other route, and that even Xion said, "Screw it, I won't help you because you're a piece of shit," leading to everybody who hadn't died yet getting killed, like you see in the picture here. So it almost feel like opposite engines from each other, and the need for the people in the SF route, the all 17 of us engine, the need for them to go to this timeline here where everything went to shit kind of feels like the game's way of telling us how Kodaka and Nushikoshi complement each other when their best engines kind of needed one another. This for me is just like pure poetry or something. I love this game, man. I really love this game. So I like to thank you all for watching all for watching all of this. Uh, but I have a little something extra to close out this video. You see, I was having trouble making a route ranking because I felt like some routes were great but had some awful engines which should put it down on the list. So I kind of had trouble aligning how the good engines and the bad engines of a route uh, would balance each other out. Uh, but I kind of decided to get a little bit mathematical about it so I could uh, rank routes properly. So here is the 20 routes ranked. I am gonna go through these a bit faster, but let me explain the method first. So I'm gonna use the border method count. If you don't know the border method count, it works like you see on screen here. So I have 100 engines placed in ranks. So first place is worth 100 points, second place 99 points, and so on to get to the 100th place, which is only worth 1 point. So they kinda opposite each other out. First place 100 points, 100th place 1 point. Usually in a Borda method count, first place gets 99 points and 100th place gets 0, but I think this way here is better. So after that, I take all engines of a route to get the average of that route. Like here, I'm using the comedy route, which you already know is my bottom route, and I see the pointings of each engine and then I average it. So taking the 1 point of Model Revolution, the 2 points of No That's Wrong, the 3 points of Ultimate Slapstick, and so on, I get an average of 4.5 points to the comedy route. But in case of routes that have a tie between the points, I get to choose the order myself of which one I like the most. And as a last rule here, I'm gonna treat engines 1, 2, 3, second scenario, reset route, and goodbye Ato as a main route, as a single route. And engine 0, the first 100 days, will be counted as a route as well, called the first scenario route. As I said before in my video, I think as a route ranking, I think I can include Engine Zero on this list. So if you saw my previous video, you already know which one are my 4 worst routes because I grouped them together. But just in case you don't remember, here it is. At rank 20, we have the comedy route with 4.5 points, which I already showed you. At rank 19, we have the romance route with 12.5 points. At number 18, the conspiracy route with 20.5 points. And at rank 17, we have the Coach of Alchemy route with 25.5 points. So number 16 to 13 are a bit more interesting. At 16, we have the mystery route with 45.63 points. At number 15, we have the redstone route with 50.5 points. Number 14, we have the casual route with 51 points. And at number 13, we have the coming of age route with 54.5 points. So it sucks that the mystery route is so low, as I did find it interesting. In fact, one of its engines is a story lock for the true engine in the steady fundamental route. But I can definitely understand and agree as to why it is so low, as it had had many game over engines that were just choose the wrong culprit and you die, which were not interesting engines at all. The coming of age route and the wrestling route had their great moments, but were brought down by the fact that 75% of its engines sucked. And I didn't mention before, but I actually think the casual route was solid with the whole out of reality plot beats. It was actually a rare case of a great overall route that was brought down by having no memorable engines. So at number 12 we have the Box of Blessings route with 55.25 points. At number 11, the Box of Calamity route with 58.38 points. At rank 10, we have the Rebellion route with 59.33 points. And at number 9, we have the Serial Battles route with 64.5 points. So the Box of Blessings and Box of Calamity routes both had 8 engines each, with both having memorable engines, some stinky ones as well, and some mid-tier as well, so their placement here a little bit higher than the others makes sense. The Rebellion route had some of the same problems as the Redstone and the Coming of Age, as they all only had one excellent engine, but the Rebellion route had less sucky engines than the others. The Serial Battles route is actually a rare case as well, as it didn't blow me away, but I also have nothing bad to say about it. I guess the fighting all the time does sucks, even if you were only analyzing from a story perspective and skipped all the battles, but it didn't bother me as much. I thought both engines were solid, the one where he thinks he can go back in time but chooses to not, as he had achieved an engine that was at least slightly better than his first time around, and decided he's tired of the fighting. I think that one is better. And the one where he decides to go back and relive everything for the third time, even though the machine wouldn't actually allow him to do that, but he thought it would. I think that was cool as well. I think the point here, I think that what was relevant was not the fact that the parallel leap machine wouldn't allow him to go back in time, but the decision itself, the fact that he would choose to relive everything once more just to try to achieve uh, a, a better engine, just to try to save more people. I guess it kind of parallels our own choice of always going back to the beginning of this game and to see all other paths, but that might also just be a reflection of his fighting addiction at this point. So the serial battle route points, the 64.5, is actually the first time two routes achieve the same points, which is something that also happened again later on. So I got to Untied, and I felt that the next changing, but I felt that the next changing was a little better than this serial battles one. To which I'm talking about the killing game route, which had the same points, 64.5, and in number 7 here we have the multiple idols route with 72.5 points. So I actually thought the killing game route was lower than I was expecting, but after thinking on it, I kind of agree. The decision making in that route is not great, as it was a lot of choose the correct answer or game over, and it mostly led to sucky or mid-tier engines, with rare exceptions like the Escape or Fate engine, the one with Tsubasa being stung by the bee. Uh, at least both the last two engines of that last choice were incredible, with one ranking number 20 and the other one ranking number 1. Uh, I guess the fact that this route had 8 different engines really brought it down. Number 7 is not surprising and totally fair. To be completely honestly, actually, placing the routes between 8 and 4 would have been a absolutely nightmare for me, as they were all very solid routes. So I am glad I have found this point method. Multiple idols route doesn't have a bad engine per se, with only one being kind of mid, so I guess it explains this placement, which once again I completely agree. So the next two engines are tied, just like the serial battles and the killing game route. But I found this tie a bit harder to choose, but here we go. Number 6 is the slasher route, and number 5 is the steady fundamentals route, the SF route, both with 75.88 points. So I had a difficult time untying this, because while I think the steady fundamentals had better engines, I think the slasher route has less subpar engines. My criteria ended up being a personal preference, and who had a highest ranking engine, and SF route placed second, had an engine that placed second, and but that still made difficult to choose, because the slasher route had 2 engines in the top 10, which was the number 4, History Repeating, and number 7, Goodbye Kiss, which was the culminations of both the zombie side and the serial killer side of the slasher route. I don't think I have to repeat the praise for these routes. They are incredible, so I will just move on to the 4th place. And at the 4th place we have the Eva route. As I said before, placing the Eva route, the killing game route, the multiple idols route, the slasher route, and the steady fundamentals route in an order would have been very difficult for me. So I'm really glad once again for this point system. And Damn, did I choose a really strong image to talk about the Eva route here? But it's because this route starts with a bang. Eva defending herself against Shoma trying to kill her felt completely justified. The decision to kill Eva to discover the secrets of the satellite through Shoma felt like a decision the player would have made, but not the characters. So when you spare her, I think that was well reflected in the actions Takumi made from this point on, trying to undo Eva's brainwashing, making her remember Commune, and eventually releasing her, even though she killed Shoma. I have mad respect for both endings of this route. One focus on the romance, where they decide to be together and forget about the war, and the other one that plays a little higher, where Takumi decides to fight for his friends, and Eva comes to his aid, sacrificing her, uh, but matching vastness in a sudden twist of strength. As I said before, this Borda method pointing system is great because honestly, if I went with personal preference, I don't think I would have placed this so high. I was actually surprised when this got so high on the list, but I completely agree because unlike some of the other ones I mentioned here, I have zero bad things to say about this route. I think it was a very solid route, so I'm glad it is getting the recognition it deserves on this video. So yeah, great route. Let me move on to the next one. So this is at third place we have the main route. As I said before, what I mean by main route are the first three engines, which is the second scenario, the reset route, and the goodbye idol. Uh, just to be clear, for anyone who might not have agreed with me putting these three engines together, if I split them, all three would be around here. I think maybe only the reset route would be behind the Eva route, but other than that, they would be around here. Uh, Notch higher than my second place, so it really made sense for me to join all three of these engines together. Um, I was surprised with the top three, but thinking on it, I completely agree. And in my engines list, I might not have give the credit this route deserves. So I'm really glad it got high here on the route rankings. Um, because the production value on this route it was bigger than any other. It is undeniable. Most of the story was explained on this main route, and while the engines might not have placed on the top 15, I am glad, really glad once again that the amazingness of this route was at least very well reflected here. I don't know if this route was led by Ushikoshi or Okadaka. That wasn't really clear. Maybe it was a joint effort, but man, great route, great route. So at second place we have the first scenario route, Engine Zero, which got 85.5 points. Since this engine didn't actually get a place on my top 100 engines, it might not be clear of how I reached this point, but of how it got 85.5 points. So I put the explanation here below. In my honorable mention of this engine, it was between 15 and 16th place, which with the Borda method counter would be 85.5. So here we are. Uh, I believe I mentioned this early, but I'll say it again. This route showed me the advantages of making a linear story instead of a multiple route story, as the story felt way more concise, the characters felt way more consistent, and the execution of its teams felt on point. It might feel weird to complement what is essentially the prologue in comparison to the other routes, but this is the start that light the way for the rest of the game. And I don't think I have said this in this video or the previous one, but just how cool is this whole 100 line Last Defense Academy ends and 100 line Last Defense Academy 2 begins. Man, there are just a few games that does this, that surprise us with a sequel inside the same game. I myself only saw it in one other game, and I find those kinds of things amazing. It really feels like two games for the price of one. Uh, Man, just amazing stuff. And at the top of the routes, we have the Vashna's route with 86.5 points, the biggest score among all routes. I'm going to be very honest here. I was surprised this got so high initially, but this is without a doubt the most unique route there is. It breaks all the structures you are used to seeing in this game, and the this final part of this route might be pure visual novel, but it is visual novel at its finest. So I praised this route a lot before, so I won't have much to add here, but I gotta say this really plays to one of the most underrated and underspoken of Ushikoshi's narrative abilities, which is his tact for writing great villains. Uh, Vashnis probably had a lot of Kodaka in her as well. Man, Vashnis takes the cake here. This route even kind of makes her a romantic option, even though it's in her death badge, hers in Takumi. Uh, but man, she was a great villain from beginning to end. Uh, and I think her back and forth here with Takumi, their whole little relationship here, it was something incredible to see. It was short, but I still felt like it was quite well developed. Uh, Honestly, I'm really glad this got the top spot here. So as a last addition here, just a quick spreadsheet of the ranking of the routes and how they scored. And I was thinking on it, and I kind of think there's a best route order to play if you're ever interested in advising a friend to play this game. I don't know if you agree with it though, but I put it here in the right. Uh, so I just want to say thank you all again. This video project was a little long, but I don't regret it, as this was my favorite game in 2025, which surprised me because I thought nothing would top Blueprints. You should play Blueprints as well, by the way. Everybody should play Blueprints. And as a last message, I just want to say thank you all again. This has been the 100 Line Last Defense Academy Engines Ranked, a game where you have to defend a school base for 100 days, a game that has 100 engines, and this slideshow had exactly 100 slides. Bye.